Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop. We also welcome Sid Lowe to the show. And Sid, despite what they told me yesterday, I don't care about Mariner and Burley's opinion. Happy New Year to you. It's not too late to say it.
I didn't realise there was a cut-off point, and if it's the first time you've spoken to me since the New Year, it makes sense, doesn't it? Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you very much, Sydney. How lovely.
All right, can we get on with this show here or what?
All right, OK.
I mean, seriously, what I love in here.
Happy New Year, Shane.
I've seen you.
So it has not been a happy New Year so far for Real Madrid, of course, playing Villarreal yesterday in a
World champions.
The world champions could only manage a 2-2 draw away against Villarreal, leaving them 7 points off Barca at the top of the table. There was so much familiar regarding this performance from Real Madrid. Sid, they didn't ever really have a stranglehold on the game. Cazorla, of course, getting the brace for Villarreal. Just not good enough yet again.
No, and I think that's fair, and I think it's fair even beyond just this season. Bear in mind that of all the times that they've been to the World Club Cup, Real Madrid have only won once coming off the back of it, so they've always had this sort of slow start after it for the new year. But it's more, as you say, about the way this fits in with the way they've performed throughout this season. And after the game, Thibaut Courtois said that he felt that Real Madrid had the opportunities to have won the game, that they should have put it out of sight, they should have made it impossible for Villarreal. And I suppose on one level at least you could say, well, yeah, maybe you're right, because they broke away a couple of times and had a couple of very good chances, particularly that Lucas Vázquez opportunity in the second half. But actually the pattern of the second half and the sensation of the second half was as of a Villarreal side increasingly applying the pressure and basically, I wouldn't go quite so far as to say dominating, but being the better side. And Real Madrid didn't impress again, and they continue to be a team that don't entirely impress. That said, even with this draw, they're only 7 points off the top of the table. And, of course, we saw what happened last year. This is a team, and I think it's one of the things we sometimes forget. There's a certain degree of continuity going back an entire season. This is a team that finished 17 points behind Barcelona last year. But, of course, all that gets forgotten because they turn up in the Champions League. And there's nothing to say that that won't happen this year. Well, there are one or two things to say it won't happen this year, but we thought that last season as well.
The points gap, as you say, is 7, Sid. It's difficult to make any sort of argument, though, given what we've seen, that they are going to in any way catch Barca.
No, I mean, I think you're right. If you make the argument from the perspective of Real Madrid, because Real Madrid haven't impressed this season, even when they've been picking up victories, because actually the run of results under Solari is miles better than it was under Lopetegui. You know, he's already picked up more points than Lopetegui did. He's in a position where he's been beaten twice. I think Lopetegui was beaten 6 times in as many games. But that's looking at it from the Real Madrid point of view, because despite those improvements in results, they don't impress. I suppose the one way where you say, well, there may be an opportunity is that neither Barcelona nor Atletico Madrid and nor even Sevilla impress so much as to believe at this early stage that, look, they're going to put so much distance between them and Real Madrid. They're not going to give Real Madrid the chance to catch them. I think Real Madrid will have the opportunity to catch up. The question mark is whether or not they're able to take that opportunity.
Yeah, they're not going to, are they?
And who's not going to?
Real Madrid. Well, that's what we've just been talking about for the last 5 minutes.
Well, I was too busy still thinking about your loving with your Happy New Year at the start. Said the other thing is like, I see off the back of another dodgy result that Bale is taking an absolute shellacking again. I mean, surely to God others are going to have to carry the can as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say this. I mean, this is, I think, the 23rd injury of his Real Madrid career. I think it's the 13th time he's been forced off during a game because of injury. Yeah. And I think you're right, though, to focus it in terms of the shellacking, because what's happened with this is that every time Bale gets injured, and I must admit, I'm quite impatient with this. I think it's quite unfair. Every time he gets injured, he gets attacked as if he's somehow chosen to be injured, you know, as if he's somehow deliberately pulling out. Now, it is true that there are people at Real Madrid who believe that Gareth Bale doesn't always play through the pain in a way that others do, that maybe Gareth Bale doesn't have that slightly cliched fighting spirit thing that perhaps other players have. But I certainly think you're right, that to focus it purely on Bale isn't fair. That said, in truth, he's not the only person who of course, is having the finger pointed at him. A lot has been said, in particular, about Marcelo's performances this year. There have been doubts as well about who the third striker should be. So at the moment, it's Lucas and Benzema and Gareth Bale. But there's been a lot of talk about whether Isco should be in there, and a huge debate about what his role in this team should be, about what Marco Asensio's role in this team should be. So while I think some of the focus on Bale is unfair, I also think it's worth pointing out that it's not only him that's having people people point the finger.
It's a lot of injuries. It's almost a year. 323 days, I think, it is in total since he joined Real Madrid.
And as much as I agree it's unfair, you also have to kind of remember that Gareth Bale positioned, or between him and his agent, his representation, positioned himself as the heir apparent to Cristiano Ronaldo. Coming back, going years back to saying he'd prefer to play through the middle. And now that he has that opportunity to wear that Ronaldo shirt, as it were, to see the team playing this poorly, of course, he's going to be the focus. But let's remember, at times, the same Real Madrid crowd, rather ridiculously, were booing Ronaldo as well. So to see them turn on Bale in this manner is not really all that surprising.
99% of players, maybe even more, don't want to be injured. They're the odd one who will throw a wobbly in and is not bothered. But most players will try and play. Some will play a little bit more through the pain. Sometimes you can't do it at all if it's a muscular injury. But the one thing that keeps popping up is this Ronaldo, filling the boots of Ronaldo. There's two guys that have been played in Spain, Ronaldo and Messi, over the last decade or so, that nobody on the planet can fill the boots of, and probably never will again. Maybe the odd player will pop up on the odd season and get somewhere close to 50 goals. But nobody, and I mean nobody, I don't care about if it's Mbappe or Neymar or anybody, none of them will go a decade with the stats that these two have. It's just incredible.
But having said that, you can't just give Bale a pass, surely.
Not giving Bale a pass. Nobody wants to be injured, and he needs to play better. But every time I switch my phone on, I seen it again today, former Real Madrid player smashes Bale. It seems to be a theme. I just don't know.
But he hasn't helped himself. The comments after the Champions League final don't help, do you?
No. Well, what was the comments?
Coming out and saying, I better start next season, I'm going to be looking to move elsewhere. You know, if you come out and say that...
That's normal.
Is it? After winning the Champions League final?
What, a bit...
To make it all about you, to all of a sudden, because you've been come off the bench, you scored those 2 goals, you actually contribute.
At the time of the Champions League final, there was a man still in charge who actually didn't fancy him much at all. So maybe there was just a frustration there. We can't criticise players for having a bit of passion. That's the way it is.
It's not having a bit of passion, it's thinking about yourself at a time when you should be celebrating the club's victory.
I'm sorry about a player thinking about himself.
You're incredible. You are the biggest apologist for Gareth Bale.
No, I'm not.
You are completely. Always Gareth Bale. You give him a pass on everything for a reason I don't quite understand.
Well, you don't understand a lot. I think the guy's a fantastic player, but he's not playing anywhere near his best. I understand that.
So he deserves to be criticised.
But he gets more than anybody else. Do you expect him to get 50 goals like Ronnie and Messi every season? No. But he's not playing as well as he can. But you run through that Real Madrid team, and most of them are in the same boat. Some of them are probably worse, but they don't get it like he's getting it. Let's be frank here. He's been getting it at Real Madrid, whether he played well or not, from the minute he came in the door.
Because of his price tag? And that's just
because when things weren't going well, there was a guy called Ronaldo who used to throw his arms up in the air in the Bernabeu and make it all very
But there's also a guy called Ronaldo who scored 50 goals a season and can do that.
And you're talking about Gareth Bale looking after himself and you've got him doing that. Come on.
Let's talk about who could be joining Gareth Bale at Real Madrid. Sid, a lot of speculation, of course, of late about Eden Hazard making the move from Stamford Bridge to the Bernabeu, especially with Pulisic making the move from Dortmund. What is the latest? What's the Madrid press saying?
Well, this is basically has all the ingredients to happen. It's happened very, very easily indeed. Eden Hazard has made no secret of his desire to play at Real Madrid. In fairness to Eden Hazard, and I think it is probably worth pointing this out, he's always been very cautious about how he says this. He's always tried to be very respectful of Chelsea in the way that he says this. He's always said that he won't force a move, that he will listen to Chelsea, that he wants Chelsea to build a great team, and that maybe that would be sufficient to convince him to stay. But that recurring theme has recurred. It's kept coming up again and again and again. I'd like to go to Real Madrid. And now, of course, we're in a contractual situation with him in which we're getting very, very near the end, to the extent that even Sarri is saying, look, we need to sort this out. And sorting this out basically means let's get clarity. Let's agree that it's going to happen. Let's manage it in the best way. And from Real Madrid's point of view, of course, this is very, very good news, because you get an extraordinarily good player and you get him without having to pay a huge transfer fee for him. And for Real Madrid, that's genuinely important. Look at their transfer dealings over the last 4 or 5 years. They are not spending 100 million euros on players anymore. That's just not the way they're going about things. And so here at last is the opportunity to buy the kind of player who might be a 100 million euro player, but not have to spend that in transfer fee. Admittedly, of course, the wages will still be huge.
No-brainer, isn't it, all round?
Yeah, I saw something today, actually. I don't know if it was said. I don't think it was said, but I saw something today going back to that point that Barcelona, I don't know how long it's been, a few years, but Barcelona have spent something like 400 million plus more than Real Madrid in the transfer fee. So you wouldn't necessarily think that. If you just look at the players, you would think, oh, Real Madrid have gone out and they've splashed the cash and they've brought in the Galacticos. Actually, Barca have been the ones that have been way more active in the transfer market. I don't see a downside here. I mean, the player, he has been respectful to Chelsea, but I think also from Chelsea's perspective, I don't think it would be a great fight to try and stand in his way. It would be a disappointment, but I think they would understand. And I would completely understand from Hazard's point of view. And what a great time for him to go, because the issues that certain players are having, he's at a great age. If he goes in there and hits the ground running, he's going to be the darling of the Real Madrid fans for the time being.
I think Hazard is a great fit for Real Madrid, and as Sid rightly points out, at a good price. For Hazard as well, listen, he has been more loyal to Chelsea than maybe he should, or most of the players in his position would, especially given the kind of uncertainty around Chelsea, whether they're going to win the league or finish outside the top 4, you're not quite certain. So you understand Hazard looking at a club like Real Madrid, knowing that they can be competing for European honours with some consistency, makes a whole lot of sense for the player as well.
And La Liga, of course, back this week. And just to switching attention now to what we saw take place yesterday, obviously Manchester City with that 2-1 victory over Liverpool. Sid, as you're on, from a Spanish perspective, I think those two teams showed yesterday, no question, they're the best two in the Premier League. How much Real Madrid, Barcelona fans, for example, sitting up and taking notice about how good these teams are?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that they are taking notice, and particularly now, over the Christmas period, because there's no Spanish football, you get an increase in the attention focused on the Premier League. There's a huge amount of attention anyway, but I think now even more so. This is a game that I think if we look at the TV figures, which haven't been released yet, but I think we'll probably see that this game was watched by more Spaniards even than Real Madrid Villarreal, partly because of which channels they were on. And there is a sense now that these are two exceptionally strong sides. Now, obviously, Manchester City impressed anyway. The focus on them because of Pep Guardiola was already very, very high. Liverpool were a team that I think to some extent were being discovered as last year's Champions League campaign went on. And this year, there's a very clear sense from within Spain that, wow, this team who made it to the Champions League final last year are far stronger than they were. And I think when Spanish football fans and the Spanish football media looks at the Champions League now, and, you know, they would traditionally say, OK, Madrid and Barcelona, plus maybe one from England, plus maybe Bayern Munich, plus maybe Paris Saint-Germain. I think they're now looking at this and thinking, OK, there are at least 2 teams in England, maybe even 3, who we have to look at and consider to be very, very significant sides indeed when it comes to getting to the semi-finals or the final of the Champions League. How
the landscape has changed, boys. Do you think, what, 2 or 3 years ago we were sat here going, what's wrong with the Premier League? You know, do they need a winter break? What's going on? FA Cup, League Cup, it's all taking its toll on them in Europe. And yet here we are in this conversation. Genuinely, the Manchester City and Liverpool are in the same conversation.
Well, they've still got to get over the line, haven't they?
Sure.
Which the Spanish teams in particular have done with regular aplomb recently. But, yeah, I mean, would it be about 5 years ago now or thereabouts? I was saying, look, the Premier League had a problem because its teams in Europe were painting it in a particularly bad light because of their performances, and they had to start showing it. And I always felt they would, when all these people coming out saying, oh, look at England, look at Spain. Certain countries have had a certain period of domination. You know, United had a little bit for a while, then Liverpool popped up, and Chelsea popped up with a surprising win. We had Bayern Munich doing it for a bit, we had Inter Milan doing it for a bit, and the Italians were there. Then the Spanish had their domination, and Barca and Real don't quite look as strong as they were, but they're still strong. And now all of a sudden the English teams have got as strong as squads, for sure, but whether they've got enough experience and less mistakes like City had last year to get over the line, until they do that, I think people will still ask a few questions.
You always feel that these things are cyclical, that they do come around eventually, and especially given the money involved in the Premier League, you do feel that makes a difference, particularly over the longer term. I also feel that you're just seeing not just two good teams, but two of the best managers in European football, which maybe English clubs couldn't boast 4 or 5 years ago. And that, for me, is making a huge difference. English clubs were dominating Europe when the likes of Rafa Benitez was involved with Liverpool, when Mourinho was Jose Mourinho. But I just felt you kind of went away from that a little bit. And now you're seeing the money making a difference, but in particular, the men in charge are the ones who have these teams playing in a way that I think will bring European success or bring them very close to European success.
You weren't here with us yesterday, were you, Shaq?
No, I wasn't.
What did you make of the overall?
I thought it was a fantastic game. I disagree a little bit with what Craig was saying on yesterday's show. I thought Liverpool were the better of the two teams. For me, I thought City made some mistakes, and individual mistakes. Simple passes, simple controls that I just didn't expect from them. And I just wondered if the occasion, particularly early on, was kind of getting to some of these players. And then it became an emotionally fair, particularly once Kun Aguero scores. But I thought Liverpool were unlucky, particularly with the Mane chance. But head-to-head, as much as I know City won, I thought Liverpool looked the better of the two teams.
The one thing I would say, and it was close, I mean,
either
way, but I mean, it was Jurgen Klopp that changed his setup. After 57 minutes, he went back to the 4-2-3-1 and brought Fabinho on. He did that, in my opinion, because they weren't quite in the game as much as he wanted. That's the one thing I would say. I mean, it was very close. But I thought the two teams showed that they are quality sides. And I still think the two of them can play better than they played yesterday.
Just take a look at how the bookies rate them now regards to the Champions League. Remember, early on in the competition, Manchester City were favourites, still 7-2. Liverpool look a good bet, don't they, surely, now at 8-1. Although Liverpool, of course, have got Bayern in the next round. The third round of the FA Cup kicked off today. Tranmere taking on Tottenham. Tranmere currently in the 4th tier of English football. They'd hold it goalless until the 40th minute when Aurier would score a great goal. Make it 1-0.
Aurier's pressure that wins the ball back and then just tests his arm from 25 yards out. Look at the movement on that. Goodness me.
A lot of changes to this Spurs side, including the introduction of Fernando Llorente. He would get a hat-trick in the second half, the first coming just 3 minutes after the break.
Yeah, they've not really seen much of Llorente at all recently, to be honest with you. And maybe he's just going to be the FA Cup man, Daniel.
Maybe he is, Craig. 7 minutes after that, Aurier gets his second to make it 3-0.
Again, Son involved. He tees up Aurier after his run is stopped at the top of the box, and Aurier had a nice enough finish.
Moments later, it's Son who gets on the score sheet to make it 4-0.
Well, you're going to miss his goals, aren't they, when he...
When does he go, Craig?
Middle of the month, just shy middle of the month.
Just shy.
13th, I believe, or thereabouts.
Son would then get... who gets now? Llorente.
Llorente. From Oliver Skip. That's a great ball to pick him up.
Asking me when he's going.
Llorente then would get the hat-trick.
Hey!
Near post. Harry Kane would come off the bench.
He's useless.
And he would get a much-needed goal.
So didn't quite get the giant killing that TV were looking for, eh?
No. No, and I think all romantics surely were hoping for maybe more of a competitive game.
Well, it was for 40 minutes.
In the end, it finishes at Tranmere 0, Tottenham 7.
I feel for the lad that manages Tranmere because I know him.
Who is it?
Mickey Mellon, Scottish lad.
Right.
Played most of his career in England, and
Is that the only reason you feel for him? Because you know him? Otherwise, you just wouldn't care, would you?
That's very harsh.
But true. Spurs, not going to win the Premier League, not going to win the Champions League. Why don't they make a real effort for the FA Cup?
They just won 7-0. What do you mean, why don't they make a real effort?
Well, because we had Pochettino saying, yeah, we prefer to win the Premier League or the...
Well, of course they would. And they still believe that they've got a chance. They still believe.
If Spurs win the FA Cup, is that a successful season?
Yeah. Top 4.
Yeah.
FA Cup, decent run in the Champions League. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, they're such a fluent side at the moment. There's some young guys coming in. Llorente gets a game. We're able to change it up at the back again. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen to Pochettino at the end of the year, if it's Man United or not, but if he can get a trophy, at least it will put that to bed.
I think
we're winning.
Trophy or not, Pochettino will be okay. I think
I know he's okay.
If Spurs finish third, that's more enough for a successful season. I don't think they have to win the FA Cup. When you consider who we both expect will finish 1 and 2, the money they spend, just how good they've looked. If Spurs, especially given how little transfer activity has gone on there over the last couple of seasons, if they finish third, I think that's quite an accomplishment.
What if they finish 5th and win the FA Cup?
Well, still good, but not as good.
He said in the past, doesn't he? Look, he would have got sacked by now if all he did was win cups, as opposed to getting them in the Champions League on a regular basis.
Well, that's where the whole thing's gone now, isn't it? It's just become a frantic scramble for top 4, and that's deemed as success. For some clubs, there are others like Maurizio Sarri at Chelsea. He'll get away with it this year if they make the top 4, but he won't get away with it next year because Chelsea don't deem the top 4 as a successful season. They want to be winning the league or competing in the Champions League. So, listen, there is budgets to talk about. There's no, as Shaq mentioned, he hasn't got the biggest budget. They don't spend the most in wages. They didn't buy anything in the summer. But come on, you've got a good enough squad of players to at least pitch up for the FA Cup and potentially win it. So I don't see where the downside is of trying to win it.
Favourites?
As of right now, not necessarily, I don't think. You still have to wait to see exactly how Liverpool and Manchester City approach this competition. If they take it seriously, I put them favourites. We have to see exactly how far this goes and how kind the draw is to each of them.
Both you gentlemen, of course, have made it to the FA Cup. Welcome into Extra Time. Sid's only got 5 minutes before Martin Einstein commandeers his studio in Madrid.
Hurry up.
All right. For Sid, do Barca really need Rabiot? Shouldn't they go all out for De Jong and De Ligt instead? Is it De Ligt?
Well, in theory, those deals are not mutually exclusive. So in theory, they can go for Rabiot and then go for these two as well. Frankly, I suspect that won't happen. I suspect that Rabiot will be the only deal that they do. I think the way that they look at it is that Rabiot is an opportunity, given that they'll get him for free, although the early suggestions are that it's around about 10 million euros a year, which is a lot of money to be paying him. But from their point of view, this is one that they should do because it's an opportunity. It's the right time. It's the right kind of player, and at a price that looks very good from their point of view.
That intro was one of the most boring that you've ever given.
What?
Sid's only got
Me
5
or Dan?
minutes. No, not you, Sid. Sid's only got 5 minutes, and Martin Einstein's going to be... And I tell you what, you've given some tediously boring ones over the years, and that's up there.
It wasn't supposed to be an entertainment, it was just an informative intro.
Well, exactly.
What did you want me to start juggling?
Who cares about Martin Einstein?
See, I could tell you now, given that we're now talking about it and therefore making it more important than it really was, I could point out that Martin Einstein is actually already here. He's hiding just off camera at the moment.
Get him in!
A bit like my dad did that time, but I'm not. But I'm not going to invite him in to wave from the side.
No, get him in to say hello.
Martin, come and say hello. Here comes Martin Einstein. There he is.
Hey, look at that.
That's just... That's actually just made your intro.
But the thing with Martin Einstein is you don't want to see Martin Einstein. You want to hear him with that voice that makes the floor vibrate and Jurgen Klopp swoon.
Oh, right. Ask a few questions. Come on.
Go on. Ask some questions.
Considering Aubameyang,
come on, get on with it.
Considering Aubameyang is top scorer in his goal return since he signed, why is he still not considered, as a world-class striker at the same level as Kane?
I don't think... Have we had that discussion?
No.
Yeah, but I think if we name top 5 strikers, Aubameyang's not necessarily high on that list.
Just because you're... No, I mean, Kane, Aguero, Morata...
If Arsenal were higher up the table, we'd have that discussion. Look at me like that.
He's a quality striker. He's just had his issues, but this season he's doing well.
Finally, if you had to be stranded on an island with one member of the FC panel, present or off today, who would it be? Also, who would you least want to be stranded with?
I'll go with Mark Donaldson.
You'd want to be stranded with him?
Yeah.
Why?
I could strangle him and I'd be fed for 2 years.
Wow.
He would just go off finding food for you.
Hey, even better.
He'd come back with like a giant bear. He'd killed it with his bare hands. And they sent a photo of it to the Scottish newspapers.
Such an in-joke.
Yeah, sorry, it's an in-house. In-house sort of joke.
Sid, who would you like to be with?
Well, I'm glad we're looking at it from a purely functional point of view, because I must admit, I did think who would be the least useful, and I suspect that Stevie Nichol's at the very top of that list.
Yes. You know, well, it's him and then Mariner. You'd get to this island and you'd be on your own and Stevie would be saying, I still can't get ESPN Plus on my phone. Stevie, we may have some problems trying to get some food.
What would Robbo be like on ours? Sure, Rob's going to be quite intense.
No, Robbo would
build it there.
Robbo would say, right, you attack it from that angle and we'll push the wing backs up there, right, and then we'll build a hut over there.
Oh dear. And then he'll somehow blame Wenger for the whole thing.
And he'll say, I'm still not allowed into Arsenal.
Right, that's it. We're done. Sid's got to go. Say hello to Martin and goodbye to Martin.
To be fair,
say Happy New Year to Martin for us, Sid.
Will do.
If Robbo had
I will say Happy New Year to Martin. Martin, Happy New Year.
I think we should put Robbo and Casey in an island.
Robbo Casey.
That'd what?
That's it. We're done.
Said you need to do this more often. Seriously, just quickly.
I do, don't I?
Yeah, what you need to do more
Fantastic.
often is tell the lie. You want to lie. Straight away, lie. Tell the producer you have to be there early.
Just turn up. Turn up and tell them that Martin's coming any minute now.
Yes.
I can make it up. I mean, every week I could just say a different person's coming.
Yeah.
The Pope's coming this week, and we've got to hurry up because he's coming here to give a big address to the whole world, and we need to move on quickly.
And we can get in the studio
Or something
early.
like that.
Bing bang bosh.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
Bish bash bosh.
Bish bash bosh.
Bing bang bosh. We are
Bish
back.
bash
All of
bosh.
us
I
are back.
didn't know there was a right way to say that.
All of us are back tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes.
You in tomorrow?
Yeah.
I am,
We're
yes.
all in. We're in the
Why is
studio
that a surprise? Why is that a
Because I
surprise?
thought we only did a
There's-
small studio
No,
downstairs.
we're in the big studio tomorrow.
My beard will be longer than yours tomorrow.
There you go. Accrington
Mine is longer today, that's all that matters.
Not shaving this off, I tell you.
Neither me.
doesn't suit either of you, let's be honest.
Gonna be
Right, so we'll be back. Lots of highlights tomorrow, Craig. You'll like that.